So I'm sitting here drinking my third glass of Chardonnay. Judge away, I deserve this. And staring at my phone like it might explode. About 4 hours ago, my husband of 12 years sent me a photo of himself on a beach with his arm around some blonde who looks barely old enough to rent a car. His message said, and I quote, "I'm never coming home. Enjoy paying off the house alone." I stared at the screen for a good 5 minutes before I started laughing, like actual tears running down my face cackling. Because this dumbass doesn't even remember whose name is on the deed. Look, I should probably back up and explain how we got here. Brent and I met when I was 23, working at that big call center downtown that got shut down after the pandemic. He was 30, charming, and honestly the best-looking guy who'd ever asked me out. We dated for 2 years, got married in a cute little ceremony that my parents mostly paid for, and settled into what I thought was a pretty decent life together. We rented for the first 7 years. I wanted to save up for a proper down payment, but Brent was always more of a why wait for tomorrow type, which TBH was part of his charm back then. But 5 years ago, my grandma passed, still miss you, Gran, and left me an inheritance of $68,000. Not exactly Kardashian money, but enough for a solid down payment on our modest 3-bedroom in the suburbs. Here's where it gets interesting. When we went to apply for the mortgage, Brent's credit score was absolute garbage. Like, mid-500s garbage. Apparently, he'd racked up some serious debt before we met and had a couple defaults he forgot to mention. The bank basically said they'd give us a loan, but only if it was in my name since my credit was good. So that's what we did. Down payment from my inheritance, mortgage in my name, deed in my name only. We talked about adding him later when his credit improved, but he never really got around to fixing his score. Something always came up when I suggested meeting with a financial advisor. Fast forward to about 8 months ago. Brent started hitting the gym. Like, really hitting the gym. Now, I'm all for self-improvement, but suddenly this man who considered walking to the fridge exercise was going 6 days a week. Then came the new clothes, the sudden interest in his appearance, the work dinners that kept him out until midnight, the passwords on his phone that never existed before. Yeah, I know, classic signs. But you know how it is, you don't want to be the paranoid wife. So I ignored it, told myself I was being silly, gaslit myself basically. Then 3 weeks ago, he tells me he has to go to this sales conference in Florida. Was supposed to be 4 days. Then it became a week because the big boss showed up and wanted extra meetings. Then another week because they were closing in on a big account. I started getting suspicious, especially when his Instagram showed way more beach pics than conference room pics. But whatever, I trusted him. Stupid, stupid, stupid. So anyway, today I'm scrolling through TikTok on my lunch break when my phone pings. It's a message from Brent. Just that photo of him and Yoga Barbie on the beach with the charming never coming home text. Oh, and he ended it with a kissy face emoji. A kissy face emoji. Like we're besties and he's just sharing his vacation pics. I couldn't breathe at first. Called my boss and told her I needed to go home sick. Drove home on autopilot. Pretty sure I ran at least one yellow light. Got home and just sat on the couch staring at nothing for like an hour. Then I did what any rational abandoned wife would do. Cried, called my best friend, and cried some more. Checked our joint bank account. He took out $4,000 last week. Cried again. Ordered a pizza I didn't eat. Started drinking the wine I've been saving for a special occasion. Cried while drinking said wine. My neighbor Hilda, she's like 60-something and has been through 2 divorces, saw me sitting on my front porch with my wine and came over. She's kind of nosy, but in that sweet old lady way where you can't really be mad about it. She asked why I was drinking alone on a Tuesday, so I showed her the text. Hilda got this look on her face, half pissed, half calculating, and asked me whose name was on the house. When I told her it was just mine, she actually snorted and said something about men never thinking things through. And that's when it hit me. The house is mine. Legally mine. The $68,000 down payment was mine. The mortgage is in my name. The deed is in my name. He's been contributing to payments, sure, but there's no legal document saying he owns half. I just went to my home office and pulled out all the paperwork from our safe. Yep, everything's in my name. The house that has appreciated almost $100,000 since we bought it is, legally speaking, all mine. So now I'm sitting here wondering, should I tell him? Should I let him know that his grand enjoy paying the house off alone statement is actually kind of meaningless? That he has zero legal claim to the equity I have built? Or should I just let him figure it out when the divorce papers hit? Part of me wants to be petty and send him a photo of the deed right now. Another part thinks it might be more satisfying to let him stew in his imagined victory for a while. Look, I know I should probably be more upset about the end of my marriage, and I am. Underneath all this vindictive energy, I'm devastated. 12 years down the drain, the future I planned gone in one text message. But right now, anger is keeping me from falling apart completely. And the knowledge that this house is mine is like a life raft in the middle of this emotional tsunami. I need to think about my next steps. Changing the lock seems like a good start. Then maybe calling a lawyer? IDK, I've never been divorced before, LOL. This wasn't exactly in my 5-year plan. But I think I need to figure out exactly where I stand legally before I reveal my hand. Hilda says I should document everything. She suggested taking screenshots of all his social media posts showing him with Sadie. Yeah, I stalked her profile. She's a yoga instructor and wellness influencer with 23,000 followers on Instagram who posts about living authentically. LOL. My head is spinning, y'all. 12 hours ago, I was worried about what to make for dinner when Brent got back from his conference. Now I'm contemplating divorce lawyers and whether I can afford the mortgage on my own. I can, but it'll be tight. I never thought I'd be that woman, the one whose husband leaves her for someone younger. It's such a cliche that it's almost embarrassing. Like, couldn't he have been more original? But here we are. So I guess my question is, what would you do? Text him back with a photo of the deed? Wait until he figures it out on his own? I'm drowning in Chardonnay and confusion here, and could use some outside perspective. First update. Wow, I did not expect my post to blow up like that. Thanks for all the advice and support. And the Reddit awards. I've never gotten those before, LOL. Y'all really came through for a stranger having a meltdown on the internet. So it's been a week since Brent's beach bombshell, and I'm sitting here with a glass of wine, again, but feeling approximately 67% less pathetic. Still not great, but progress is progress, right? I promised an update, so here's what's happened so far. Buckle up! It's been a week trademark. The morning after I posted, I woke up with that awful wine headache and about 300 notifications from Reddit. Read through some comments while chugging water and Advil, then made 3 phone calls. My friend Joanne, who happens to be friends with a divorce lawyer. A locksmith. My work, to request a personal day. The locksmith came first. Cost me $260 to change all the locks and install a new smart doorbell with a camera. Worth every penny for the peace of mind. Side note, the doorbell app keeps sending me notifications every time the neighbor's cat walks by, so that's fun at 3 in the morning. Joanne met me for lunch and brought her friend Megan, who specializes in divorce law. Having a free consultation over paninis was weirdly surreal, like my life was suddenly a scene from some Netflix drama. Megan confirmed what many of you said in comments. Since the house is solely in my name and was purchased primarily with my inheritance, Brent would have a hard time claiming half of it. She did warn me that he could potentially try to claim some portion based on his contributions to the mortgage, but even that would be an uphill battle for him. Look, I'm not trying to screw Brent over financially. Well, okay, maybe a little after what he did. But mostly I just want what's fair. I worked hard for this house too. The inheritance was mine. The good credit score was mine. The hours I spent painting every room myself while he complained about the smell was my time. So anyway, after lunch I went home and checked our finances more thoroughly. That's when I found out Brent had actually emptied our joint savings account. Not just the $4,000 I initially saw, all $12,537. The last withdrawal was 3 days before his "I'm never coming home" text. I wish I could say I handled this revelation with dignity, but nope. I ugly cried on my kitchen floor for about 40 minutes while my newly installed doorbell kept dinging with cat notifications. When I finally pulled myself together, I decided to follow Reddit's advice about documenting everything. I screenshotted all the bank statements, printed them out, and saved them to the cloud. Paranoid? Maybe. But better safe than sorry. Then I went full detective mode, checked our credit card statements for the past 6 months. Turns out Brent has been spending a lot of money that I didn't know about. There were charges for fancy restaurants in parts of town I never go to, multiple hotel charges, and we live here, so why would we need hotels? And get this, a charge for $2,300 at a jewelry store back in February. Valentine's Day was in February. I got a $20 bouquet from the grocery store. But wait, it gets better. While I was still processing this, my phone buzzed with a text from Brent. He asked if I'd gotten his message and why I wasn't responding. Like, sir? You tell me you're abandoning our marriage and I'm supposed to what? Send a thumbs up emoji? I didn't respond. 2 hours later, another text. We need to talk about selling the house. I want my half. I almost texted back a picture of the deed right then, but remembered Megan's advice to keep my cards close to my chest. So I just wrote, "We can discuss that with our lawyers." He didn't like that. Sent back a string of texts about how I was being unreasonable, how we could handle this without getting lawyers involved, how he deserved half the house equity because he put his life into that place. Put his life into the place. The man complained about changing a light bulb. The garage has been half painted for 3 years because he never found the time to finish it. I blocked his number after that. Probably not the most mature response, but my mental health needed the break. The next morning, day 3 of survival mode, I made appointments to open new bank accounts at a different bank. Thanks to whoever suggested that in the comments, I hadn't even thought about the fact that Brent could still access my personal checking since we opened the accounts together, even though I'm the only one who uses it. That afternoon, Brent's mom called me. She started the conversation all sympathetic, asking how I was holding up, then slowly worked her way around to suggesting that both of you made mistakes in the marriage, and everyone deserves a second chance. I asked her point blank if Brent had told her he was with another woman. There was this long pause, and then she said Brent told her we were taking a break because I had become controlling and wouldn't let him be himself. Y'all! I laughed so hard I snorted. Me controlling? I once asked him to please put his dirty socks in the hamper instead of next to it, and he acted like I was imposing martial law. I sent her the screenshot of his beach text. She got real quiet, said she needed to go, and hung up. Haven't heard from her since. By day 4, I was getting messages from mutual friends asking what was going on. Apparently, Brent's been telling everyone I kicked him out. The audacity of this man. One friend even asked if my affair was worth ruining my marriage over. What the actual heck? I've never cheated on Brent. Never even thought about it. but he's out there spinning some victim narrative where I'm the villain. It took everything in me not to blast the beach photo all over Facebook, but Megan advised against public mudslinging. Being an adult is hard sometimes, y'all. Yesterday, day 7 of this mess, I came home from grocery shopping to find a manila envelope stuck in my door. Divorce papers. He's actually filing for divorce and demanding half the house and half my retirement account. The thing is, looking at those papers didn't wreck me like I thought they would. Don't get me wrong, seeing dissolution of marriage in black and white stung, but it also made everything real in a way that's almost relieving. Like, okay, this is happening. Now I can deal with it instead of living in limbo. I spent last night making a spreadsheet. Yes, I'm that person. Tracking all our shared assets, debts, and expenses. Found 3 credit cards I didn't know existed, all maxed out. All apparently opened in the last year. All in his name, thankfully, but still, the man is apparently $32,000 in debt that I knew nothing about. This morning I met with Megan again, officially hired her now, and showed her everything I'd found. She seemed impressed with my detective work. Thank you, True Crime Podcast Obsession, and said we're in a good position to respond to his filing. The house is definitely mine. The debt is definitely his. The retirement accounts will probably be split based on the duration of the marriage, but since mine is larger, because I actually contributed to it consistently, that still works mostly in my favor. Oh, and I haven't even told y'all about the care package Joanne brought over. This woman showed up with wine, chocolate, a sorry your husband's a jerk card, and printed screenshots of terrible dating profiles to make me laugh. We ended up scrolling through Tinder just to see what's out there. And let me tell you, the options are both horrifying and hilarious. One guy's entire profile just said, I own a bed frame. The bar is literally on the floor. So that's where I am now. 1 week into my new life as almost divorced Caroline. The house is secure, my money is secure, my lawyer is badass, and I'm slowly figuring out how to be okay. I still have moments where I break down, like when I found Brent's favorite coffee mug this morning and just stood there staring at it, or when a song came on Spotify that we danced to at our wedding. 12 years is a long time to be with someone, and those memories don't just disappear because he turned out to be a lying dirtbag. But I'm also finding moments of strength I didn't know I had, like when the dishwasher made that weird noise it always makes, and instead of calling Brent, I just Googled it and fixed it myself. Turned out there was a fork stuck in the sprayer thing. Adulting achievement unlocked. The weirdest part? I still haven't sent him a picture of the deed. I'm waiting for the right moment, preferably when my lawyer tells me it's time. The idea of seeing his face when he realizes the house he thinks he's getting half of is legally all mine is currently what's getting me through the day. I'll update again when there's more to share. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time. Tonight's agenda includes Thai takeout, finishing the last episode of that serial killer documentary on Netflix, and not crying in the shower. We'll see how many of those I actually accomplish, LOL. Thanks again for all the support. This internet stranger appreciates you all more than you know. Second update. It finally happened, y'all. The moment I've been simultaneously dreading and looking forward to for nearly a month now. Brent found out about the deed situation, and let's just say his reaction was memorable. But before I get to the main event, thanks to everyone who's been following this saga and sending supportive messages. You guys have literally been keeping me sane through this whole mess. So last Thursday, I'm working from home. My boss has been super understanding about all this divorce drama. Thank God. When my Ring doorbell starts going off like crazy, I check the app expecting to see the neighbor's cat again. But nope, it's Brent standing on my porch with 2 massive suitcases. I literally froze, coffee mug halfway to my mouth, watching him repeatedly jab the doorbell button like he's trying to put a hole through it. I hadn't seen him in person since before his beach vacation with Sadie, and honestly, I wasn't prepared for the wave of emotions that hit me. Anger, obviously, but also this weird pang of something, not quite sadness, not quite nostalgia. Whatever it was, it caught me off guard. After like 30 seconds of doorbell abuse, he starts yelling at the camera, demanding that I open the door because he knows I'm home. My car was in the driveway. He says he's come to collect his things since I'm being difficult about the divorce. Oh, and get this. He says he'll be staying in the house tonight because he has every right to be there. Excuse me? Did this man really think he could just waltz back into our house after texting me he was never coming home? After emptying our joint account? After filing for divorce and demanding half my house? The audacity. The absolute audacity. I grabbed my phone and texted Joanne in our group chat. Code red Brent at the door. WTF do I do? While waiting for her response, I watched Brent on the Ring app. He's getting increasingly frustrated, pacing back and forth, checking his watch. Then he tries to use his key. Ha! Remember that locksmith visit I mentioned last time? Money well spent, people. Money well spent. That's when he lost it. Started banging on the door, yelling about how I can't lock him out of his own house. The neighbors were probably getting quite the show. Eventually, he stormed off the porch, dragged his suitcases back to his car, and just sat there for about 20 minutes, presumably trying to figure out his next move. My heart was racing the whole time. I kept thinking he might try to break a window or something. He didn't, thank God, but my anxiety was through the roof. Joanne finally texted back a bunch of shocked emojis followed by, "Do not open the door," then called me. She reminded me that I don't have to let him in and suggested I call my lawyer right away. So I did. Megan said this was actually perfect timing. She'd already prepared a response to his divorce filing that included documentation about the house being solely in my name. She suggested I text Brent. Yes, I had to unblock him, telling him to contact her office about accessing the house and property division. I sent the text. 5 minutes later, my phone exploded with incoming messages. Apparently, Brent had just assumed we'd split everything 50-50ths, including the house. He seemed genuinely shocked that I wasn't rolling over and giving him whatever he wanted. Look, I could have dragged this out longer, letting him figure it out through the legal process. But something in me just snapped. Maybe it was seeing him at the door like he owned the place. Maybe it was just reaching my limit of suppressed rage. Whatever it was, I found myself texting him an image of the deed with only my name highlighted in neon yellow, along with a super mature message. Check the deed, babe. House is 100% mine. Always has been. The 3 dots appeared and disappeared about 6 times before he finally responded. That's impossible. Y'all. I laughed so hard I snorted coffee through my nose. Painful, do not recommend. Then sent him a screenshot of the mortgage documents showing only my name and signature, followed by a screenshot of the inheritance deposit that covered the down payment. He went ballistic, started calling nonstop. When I didn't answer, he came back to the house and started yelling at the Ring camera again, saying I tricked him, that I was trying to steal his home, that he'd paid half the mortgage for 5 years. The neighbors across the street were literally in their front yard watching by this point. I was mortified but also couldn't stop watching the train wreck unfolding on my doorstep. Mrs. Chen from next door actually came out and told Brent she'd call the cops if he didn't calm down. God bless that woman. Eventually he left again, but the texts kept coming. Threats about lawyers, claims that I'd committed fraud somehow, on and on. I was shaking by the end of it, not gonna lie. Even though I knew I was in the right legally, the confrontation left me feeling drained and anxious. I ended up taking a long hot shower, ordering way too much Chinese food, and falling asleep on the couch at like 8 p.m. Emotional exhaustion is no joke. The next morning brought another surprise. I woke up to a DM on Instagram from, wait for it, Sadie. The Sadie. Beach photo Sadie. 25-year-old yoga instructor Sadie. Her message was actually really nice. She apologized for her part in hurting me and then dropped a bombshell. She had no idea Brent was married until yesterday. He told her he was divorced for 2 years and that his ex-wife, me apparently, was a controlling nightmare who wouldn't let go. We ended up having a long DM conversation where we compared notes. Turns out Brent told her he owned a house that his ex wouldn't move out of, which is why they were staying at hotels and Airbnbs. The beach trip was supposed to be their fresh start before moving into his house, my house, together once they got back. When he found out the house was legally mine, he apparently had some kind of meltdown at her place, blaming me for screwing him over. That's when she got suspicious and started Googling, found my Facebook, and realized I was very much still his current wife until a month ago. She sent me screenshots of their text conversations where he was literally planning to move her into my house. Our house. The audacity of this man truly knows no bounds. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. I mean, she did have an affair with my husband, but it sounds like he manipulated her too. According to Sadie, she broke things off with him immediately after discovering the truth and kicked him out of her apartment. So now Brent is apparently couch surfing at his brother's place. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy, TBH. The real kicker came 2 days ago when Megan called to tell me Brent's lawyer had reached out suggesting we settle this amicably. Translation? He finally consulted with someone who told him he has no claim to the house. His new offer? He wants $30,000 in exchange for his share of the equity and for not contesting the divorce. Megan laughed and countered with an offer of $0 plus he pays back the $12,000 he stole from our joint account. Still waiting to hear back on that one, but I'm not holding my breath. Meanwhile, I've been using all this chaotic energy to make this house 100% mine in every way. Painted the living room a color Brent always hated. Rearranged the furniture, bought new bedding, little things that help me reclaim the space. I also took the advice many of you suggested and started therapy last week. Just 1 session so far, but it felt good to talk to someone neutral about all of this. My therapist suggested I start journaling, which feels a bit cliche, but I'm giving it a try. Can't hurt, right? What's been really surprising is how many friends have rallied around me. People I haven't talked to in ages have been checking in. My coworkers surprised me with an Independence Day care package full of wine and chocolate. My mom has called every single day, which is actually getting a bit annoying but comes from a good place. The emotional roller coaster continues, though. I'll be feeling strong and empowered 1 minute, then find one of Brent's old t-shirts in the laundry and tear up. 12 years is a long time to be with someone, and untangling our lives is complicated. Last night I ordered pizza and realized halfway through my online order that I was still automatically adding his favorite toppings. Little moments like that still catch me off guard, but I'm getting there. 1 day at a time and all that jazz. Oh, almost forgot the latest development. Yesterday I got a text from Brent that just said, "This isn't over, you'll regret this." So that's fun and not at all ominous. Megan says we should file for a restraining order given his behavior at the house and this latest text. I'm considering it, but part of me wonders if that would just escalate things further. What do you guys think? Anyway, that's where things stand now. The house is definitively mine, Brent is furious about it, his girlfriend dumped him, and I'm somewhere between victorious and exhausted. I'll update again when there's more to share. At the rate things are going, that'll probably be sooner rather than later. Thanks again for all the support, advice, and awards. This internet stranger appreciates you all more than I can say. Final update. Hey Reddit, remember me? The woman whose husband sent a beach selfie with his yoga instructor girlfriend along with a cheery, "Enjoy paying the house off alone" text? Well, it's been 6 months since that delightful moment, and since so many of you have DM'd asking for a final update, here it is, the conclusion to what my therapist now calls the Brent saga. This morning I found one of Brent's socks behind the dryer while doing laundry. 6 months later, and I'm still finding random pieces of him throughout the house. But the weird thing? I just tossed it in the trash without feeling anything at all. No anger, no sadness, nothing. And that's when I realized I was finally ready to write this update. So where are we now? Grab your popcorn, folks. The divorce was finalized last month, which was both anticlimactic and incredibly emotional all at once. After Brent's initial "this isn't over" threat, which many of you correctly pointed out was just posturing, his lawyer must have given him a reality check. They suddenly became surprisingly cooperative once Megan countered with evidence of the joint account theft and his hidden debt. I did end up getting that temporary restraining order after the doorbell incident, which turned out to be unnecessary since Brent never tried coming back. But it gave me peace of mind during those first tense weeks when I jumped every time my phone buzzed. The final settlement was pretty much what Megan predicted. I kept the house, duh. He kept his debt, double duh. I kept my retirement accounts. He repaid $8,000 of the $12,000 he took from our joint account. The other $4,000 is apparently gone forever, aka spent on Sadie. We split the furniture based on a hilariously detailed spreadsheet that included items like, "that ugly lamp your mother gave us." He took it. Signing those final papers was surreal. 12 years of marriage ended with a DocuSign link and a congratulatory text from Megan. I spent that night alone on my back porch, drinking wine straight from the bottle and scrolling through old photos. Not my proudest moment, but probably a necessary one. Look, I'd be lying if I said the past 6 months have been some incredible journey of self-discovery and empowerment. Some days were exactly that. Other days, I barely managed to get out of bed and feed myself. Healing isn't linear, as my therapist reminds me approximately 800 times per session. The house has become my therapy project. Remember how I said I painted the living room? Well, I didn't stop there. Every room has been transformed. New paint, new fixtures, new furniture where I could afford it. I refinanced the mortgage last month. Interest rates are garbage, but still better than my old loan. Taking Brent's name off everything and reducing my monthly payment by $140. The kitchen faucet broke last week and flooded the entire counter. Pre-divorce Caroline would have called Brent, who would have complained but eventually fixed it. Post-divorce Caroline watched 3 YouTube tutorials, made 2 trips to Home Depot, used language that would make a sailor blush, and eventually fixed it herself. Progress. Now for the tea some of you have been waiting for. What happened with Sadie? After she deemed me about Brent's lies, we had a few more conversations. She felt genuinely terrible about the whole situation. Turns out she had just gotten out of a bad relationship when she met Brent, and his "my ex-wife is crazy" story hit all her sympathy button. Classic manipulation tactic, my therapist says. Here's where it gets weird. Sadie and I are now friends? Sort of. We meet for coffee every couple weeks. It was awkward at first, understatement of the year, but there's something weirdly cathartic about comparing notes on Brent's lies. Plus, she's actually pretty cool when she's not unknowingly sleeping with my husband. Sadie's Instagram following has actually grown since all this went down. She posted this long, raw story about being manipulated by an older man and learning to recognize red flags, and it resonated with a lot of people. She's up to 41,000 followers now. Good for her, honestly. As for Brent, last I heard, he's still crashing at his brother's place. His dating profile popped up on my friend's Tinder recently. He's shaved his beard and is trying to pass himself off as 38 instead of 42 LOL. His company downsized his department, so he's working reduced hours, which couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Oh, and remember that $2,300 jewelry store charge I found? I finally discovered what it was. Sadie showed me the earrings he bought her, claiming they were just little $30 studs from Amazon. The man couldn't even be honest about his gift giving. His mom reached out to me about 2 months ago, apologizing for taking his side initially. She invited me to lunch, which was equal parts touching and weird. She spent most of the time telling me stories about Brent's childhood that suddenly made his adult behavior make a lot more sense. Apparently, he's been the victim in his own story since he was 5 years old. Generational trauma is wild, y'all. As for my love life, well, that's been an adventure. I finally worked up the courage to download Hinge 3 months ago. My first date was with a guy who spent 2 hours talking about cryptocurrency and then asked if I wanted to join his multi-level marketing supplement business. The second guy was nice, but kept referring to his ex as the succubus, which, red flag much? But last month I matched with a guy named Michael who seems refreshingly normal. He's divorced too, 4 years ago, amicable, no drama, loves his job teaching high school history, and hasn't once complained when I've needed to reschedule because of work stuff. We've been on 5 dates, and I haven't found any major red flags yet. Though after Brent, my red flag detector might need recalibration. Taking things super slow though. No rush. I'm still getting used to having the whole bed to myself and not having to watch someone else's boring TV shows every night. Work has been my saving grace through all this. I got a small raise. Yay. But also more responsibilities. Boo. which has kept me busy enough to avoid spiraling too often. My boss still doesn't know the full Brent saga. She just thinks we grew apart, which is technically true. If by grew apart, you mean he ran off with a woman young enough to be on her parents' health insurance. Financially, I'm doing okay. Not great, but okay. Being single is expensive, as it turns out. The house is mine, but so are all the bills. I've had to cut back on some things. Goodbye, expensive hair salon. But the freedom to make those decisions without consulting anyone else is honestly worth the tight budget. Here's what I've learned through all this. Trust your gut. Those little red flags I ignored for years should have paid attention. Keep your finances at least partially separate in a marriage. Seriously, Reddit strangers can be surprisingly wise and supportive. Healing takes way longer than you think it will. It's possible to miss someone and be glad they're gone at the same time. Last weekend, I had some friends over for a house reclaiming party. We drank too much wine, hung photos I'd kept in storage because Brent hated them, and formally renamed the man cave basement as my new home office. Joanne brought a sage smudge stick, eye roll, and insisted we cleanse the space of bad energy. I felt silly doing it, but you know what? The house does feel different now. Maybe it's the new paint, maybe it's the rearranged furniture, or maybe it's just that I feel different in it. I'm having dinner with Michael tonight. He's cooking at his place, which feels like a big step. I caught myself wondering what Brent would think about me dating someone new, then immediately realized I don't actually care. Progress, right? I don't know what the future holds. Maybe Michael and I will work out. Maybe not. Maybe I'll stay in this house forever, or maybe I'll eventually sell it and start completely fresh somewhere else. For the first time in my adult life, those decisions are entirely mine to make. So that's my update, Reddit. From betrayed wife to homeowner to cautiously dating again in 6 months. Life comes at you fast, I guess. Thank you all again for the incredible support through this whole mess. Your comments and messages helped me more than you know on the days when I felt like I was drowning. This community has been the unexpected silver lining to the whole Brent catastrophe. I probably won't post any more updates, unless Brent does something truly outrageous, which honestly wouldn't surprise me. But know that your internet friend Caroline is doing okay. Better than okay, actually. I'm doing pretty damn good.